All right, everybody, we want to be respectful of your time today. So I want to start by welcoming you to our monthly webinar series, the 2021 Travel Content Trends. I just want to start with some housekeeping items. First of all, my name is Amy Larson, and I am the Industry Relations Manager here with the Wyoming Office of Tourism. Just so you guys know, we are recording this, and you guys will be sent a link with not only the recording of the presentation, but also with the presentation deck, and expect to see that tomorrow. We'll also have that posted up on our travelwyoming.com/industry page for you to find it there as well. Throughout the presentation, if you guys have any questions, just please go ahead and you can put them in the little Q&A down, which is the bottom of your screen, or the chat, and we'll monitor those, and we'll address all the questions at the end of the presentation. So without anything more, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Piper to go ahead and start. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks so much, Amy, and thank you everyone, and good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Piper Singer. I'm the Public Relations and Media Manager for the Wyoming Office of Tourism. And in the next 45 minutes to an hour, we're going to share with you content trends that have really been shaped by the pandemic and things that will be moving into 2021. We'll specifically go over editorial, social media, website, photography, and video, and how that will really relate to Wyoming destinations and businesses that can be taken advantage of. And with that, I will go ahead and introduce the WOT team who will be presenting with me today. So we have Lauren Seidel, our Communications and Content Manager, Blake Ward, our Interactive Marketing Manager, Lexi Mitchell, our Communications Senior Coordinator, and Charles Lammers, our Creative Assets Manager. And I will go ahead and kick it off on the public relations and earned media side. I will just share with you how we are seeing the media landscape in terms of freelancer and on-staff media shaping and how that will affect future stories on Wyoming. So to start off, we are seeing, and I'm sure you've heard this multiple times in the past few years, that newsrooms are continuing to shrink in terms of print editions and in terms of staffing. So although we do see less print editions, we are seeing a bit more of online coverage circulating. So meaning one piece is being shared multiple times and having more impressions on that particular piece. And since we're seeing less on-staff writers, the writers that are available, they are producing 2 to 5 articles per week, again on average. So this really means for us that we need to be mindful of if we have a freelancer, blogger, on-staff media reaching out to us for a statement, fact-checking our photo requests. I mean, we'll get a photo request for 5 images and have a turnaround time of 24 hours. So to be really considered for that piece. So again, just being mindful of when and how media are reaching out to you to make that a precedent. And that goes into my next point of changes in the digital media. We are seeing a lot of those newspaper and print publications merging under one company, meaning we'll see 2 brands under one parent company. Although that doesn't really affect their reporting abilities, it does open the door for more content sharing for multiple platforms. So if you are seeing a piece of Wyoming or a destination on BuzzFeed, you may be likely to see that also on a HuffPost or similar publications that are housed under that parent company. So again, it just provides those opportunities to have the Wyoming brand be more accessible online. And then finally, just in terms of the media landscape, I wanted to just chat through working with media and the public. And that really, first off, I mean, being prepared to address all topics. I think we can all agree that the pandemic, social and political issues really did dominate the news cycle and a lot of our news feeds on social media. And I know Lexi and Laura will be talking a little bit more about this later in the presentation, but just be mindful of when and how you're reaching out to an influencer, a blogger, or media. I think the biggest example I can give you is the election. If you were posting on your social that day, you may have been getting political comments on your feed, or your post may have been seen as insensitive. If you were reaching out to media, you may have seen that they didn't respond to you whatsoever. So those opportunities are just getting missed when we're seeing major events or trending topics happening online. So again, feel free to reach out, and we're happy to review anything that may be happening in your area that we can provide assistance on in terms of trending stories that are happening worldwide. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on working with freelance writers. Going back to the shrinking newsrooms, and since we are seeing less on-staff writers available, publications are really looking for freelancers to do that traveling and reporting for them for those bigger pieces. So mainly, I just want to let you know that working with freelancers shouldn't be a concern to you if you have in the past worked with on-staff writers. Most likely, freelancers would be able to produce more content pieces for you for different publications. So if you are having those opportunities arise, or if you have more questions, we're more than happy to vet any freelancers or any incoming coverage that you think that those freelancers will be producing. So just something to keep in mind moving forward into 2021. So with that, knowing what we know about the media landscape, I've compiled just a few topics that have been dominating coverage in 2020 and that will really be prominent again in 2021. I think it's no surprise that responsible travel and road trips is going to be at top of those coverage reporting lists for a lot of folks. I won't go too deep into it just because I know a lot of you have been working on these topics, but I just wanted to point out that they will still be very, very relevant this coming summer. And I know Blake and Lauren will take a bit of a deeper dive on responsible travel, but this just really means reporters are looking for storytelling opportunities of showing how safely we can travel rather than how frequently we can travel. And in terms of road trips and camping, this is just mainly going to be about having accessible information online to consumers to really gather when and where they want to go throughout Wyoming. I do want to point out this bottom example of National Geographic. I did an organic Google search on road trips, and this was a top hit for consumers to click on coverage, and Wyoming was actually listed as one of the top destinations to visit for road trips. And in a similar fashion, multi-generational travel, since we did see a lot of Zoom holidays this past year, we're going to be seeing large groups of families wanting to find one destination to reunite this year. So whether that be 10, 20, 30 family members, they're going to be looking for that one destination to accommodate all of them at once. So again, I did a quick organic Google search, and I typed in multi-generational trips, and this Frommers piece came up as a top hit for consumers to read through as coverage, and Wyoming again was listed as one of the top destinations. Specifically, Cody Night Rodeo was mentioned, the Buffalo Bill Center of the West, Dude Ranches, and of course Yellowstone were all listed as family-friendly activities. So these are just examples to go to show that Wyoming is top of mind in terms of these coverage reporting, and to really highlight that on your website, because these pieces are driving traffic to those specific destinations throughout Wyoming. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on diverse stories and voices. This really comes down to having more than one person represent your brand in terms of statements or storytelling opportunities with media. I think we're all comfortable with our executive directors being that voice, or even yourself, but really having locals and brand ambassadors step in to bring in a new perspective and build your credibility with those publications and with your audience as well. So again, just something to keep in mind as we move into this discussion. Lauren and Lexi will also talk about how this can work for your social media posts as well. So just knowing what we know of what coverage is going to be produced online and how often it will be circulated, I just wanted to quickly go through some best practices while you will potentially be seen with these trending topics. So one of those is going to be having a press room or an About Us page. And if you don't have a press room available, that's okay, so long as you have a media contact available on that space. On that page that's very clearly laid out, that just allows you to have accessibility to media and vice versa, and that there's not a lot of back and forth. And another thing that I would really encourage is having logos and photography with the appropriate credit available on your website. I think Little America does a great job in this particular slide of making it very simplistic, but also very attainable to get these assets. Again, going back to that point of having less on-staff media, they're looking for those quick turnaround times to be able to include these sort of assets in their upcoming story. And one thing, since we are seeing those road trips and responsible travel, is to be able to support that with your own online articles and press releases, just again, because you'll be driving consumers to your website based off of that coverage that is being reported on. One example I just wanted to give you is this particular piece, excuse me, my mouth is dry, was published by Cowboy State Daily. I've been seeing this more often with local media, but this was actually a post that was taken from Sweetwater County and Tourism. They repurposed all of their content for their own, again, just because that was accessible and available to them. I do want to preface it, I don't see this a lot with national regional media, but I have been seeing this a bit more frequent with local media. And then finally, this is an upcoming piece coming out in March from Salt Lake City Magazine. And they actually took all 4 of our road trip routes that are published in our travel guide and made those accessible on this 8-page spread of their March issue. So again, this goes through all of our routes and most of the destinations that we have in Wyoming. And this piece would probably not have came to us if we didn't have our travel guide accessible on our website. So again, these are just opportunities that have come naturally because we have those resources available on our website. And finally, I'll just end the PR side by saying your online content and your online representation to media should not take away from any of your media relationships that you've already established. It's still super important to reach out on a one-on-one basis via phone, via email, to reporters or influencers, bloggers that you have already worked with frequently, making sure you're personalizing those stories to them when and where you can. So with that, I know I've talked quite a bit about web content, so I'm going to turn it over to Lauren and Blake to take a deeper dive of what that will look like.
Thank you, Piper. So I'm going to start out by talking about a few content trends that have come out of the pandemic and just really people starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with travel and some of those other travel sentiments. I know that last spring, a lot of you did a really good job of really pivoting quickly and producing a lot of digital tours and content on that front. So we just wanted to give you a heads up of some other content trends coming up so that you're a little bit more prepared and have more time to start working on some of this for the summer campaign. The first 2 that I wanted to touch on are a little bit related. So one of them, which isn't anything new, but something that's still important to keep in mind, is that people are wanting local experiences. They want to feel like they're part of a community instead of just a tourist. So they're really looking for those hidden gems and those places where locals would want to go. And I know a lot of you guys are already producing this type of content. I have a few examples. One is Local Year-Round Hotspots in Sweetwater County. Visit Laramie actually has a series on local favorites. The 2 down here are on camping and best fishing access. And on the left-hand side, we have an example from the Cody area of do what locals do in the winter. So really just taking advantage of kind of marketing your places as places that people who live in your destination or who live in your area would want to do. And you can actually tap into your locals if you have people in your community who are more vocal, or if you even have just employees who would act as good ambassadors for you guys, and use them when creating content, whether it's for your website or for your social media channels. And related to that is extended stays. People are still, even though case numbers for the pandemic are getting better and people are starting to go back to work, a lot of them are still working remotely, and a lot of workplaces are actually shifting to have remote work be more common, even once things get a little bit more back to normal. And so people are able to travel and work away from their homes. So by being able to have extended stays in hotels or areas, that will really help motivate them to want to go experience those destinations while they're working. So if there's any way to offer deals, if you're a lodging company for extended stays, or really just have that be part of your messaging that, you know, people are welcome to stay for longer periods of time, that could help motivate them to choose Wyoming as a good location to work from and visit. A few other trends that a lot of people are already doing that really tie in well to Wyoming include trips to reconnect with nature. That's still really a big part of what people are looking for. It seems to be safer to be outside, and people are sick of being cooped up in their own homes, so they're really taking advantage of getting outdoors, even if that's a type of travel that they wouldn't have anticipated doing in the past. So I pulled a few examples. Visit Laramie had nature activities for families as one of their content pieces. We have 5 outdoor spots in Casper for year-round roaming. I know a lot of you are already producing this content, so really continuing to focus on that will be important going into this summer. Nostalgic destinations, summer camp type experiences, and idyllic experiences. Those are also things that people are looking to that really matches up well with Wyoming, because Wyoming has so many classic destinations and small towns that already have that kind of feel to them. So really building up on those destinations and those businesses that offer that type of feel. I actually pulled an example from our website. We had found some footage from the 1950s and 1980s of people visiting Wyoming, and actually parsed it out into some short clips to share on social media, just really playing into those types of experiences. Another trend has to do with people not being able to, or not quite feeling comfortable yet, traveling internationally. So really thinking about those travelers who would normally want to travel to an international destination and trying to pull them into your destination or your business instead. The Wyoming Dude Ranchers Association had a good article titled "Cancel Your International Travel Plans, 5 Reasons Why This Vacation is the Best Alternative." So really playing into that and trying to think through how maybe you could frame some of your content to that angle of just trying to get our not international audiences, but people who live in the US who would normally want to do international travel to come visit your destination. Another is a privacy bubble or a travel bubble. So people are still feeling a little bit, they're not quite at ease yet with traveling with larger groups. So if there's options for them to have like a private tour, or to be able to kind of sign up to go to destinations in smaller groups, or to go to businesses, that is really ideal. Or if there's like a lodging space where it could just be them and the immediate people who they are traveling with. I just put an example. I know the Buffalo Bill Center of the West offers exclusive tours, so that's something to consider too, if you'd be able to do that. And then a few other that I put on here that our office, I know, will really be focusing on this summer include road trips and sustainability. And I know that this is kind of similar to last summer. We did a big focus on road trips, and Wyoming really lends itself well to a road trip state, so continue producing that content. And then sustainability, I'll get into this a little bit more down the line, but we are excited to launch our new Why Responsibly campaign that will focus a lot on sustainability. And I just have an example on here from Sheridan. It looks like they've already pulled some of the content that we have available for anyone to use, just really talking to those points. So again, I'll dive deeper into that down the road. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to Blake to speak more to some specific website trends.
Thanks, Lauren. Glad to be here today to talk about some website trends we've seen throughout the pandemic and what we hope to see to round out 2021. First of all, with COVID, we want to continue to keep safety a priority and provide that most up-to-date information about COVID-19 in a primary location on our website. We quickly added this important COVID-19 travel information banner to the website after the pandemic hit to just elevate those public health resources, the CDC, the Department of Health, all of those factual, dependable authorities on the subject. Again, keeping in consideration those state and local ordinances. The next thing I wanted to speak about there, the next point is it's important to post or have information available for businesses and how businesses are taking extra care to keep guests healthy, how things are being cleaned, what they can expect when you have tourists visiting your attraction or your business, etc. As a support graphic to that, or a support resource for businesses to take advantage of, we have a toolkit available on our industry page, which is the Masked Up Cowboy graphics. So that's all signage that these businesses can help print and help just elevate those authorities on keeping our state clean, careful, and connected. If we go to the next image, I want to point out a couple examples here. I saw Wind River has a beautiful COVID-19 banner on their website as well, and they've had that on their website as well. Sheridan has a hero dedicated to the COVID updates and resources. So great examples of how we can keep that information in a distinctive and clear location for those browsing your destination. Another website trend that I would like to speak about is our upcoming messaging, which we've kind of coined the phrase "Know Before You Go." This Know Before You Go campaign is meant to strengthen and support our primary COVID-19 messaging with additional activity-specific information for potential travelers. This information would be a planning resource for activities for planners to have at their resource or at their fingertips. So a guide for at your fingertips information. We can go to the next slide or the next image on there to show just another example of one primary location to house all the need to know information in one central location. Things to consider keeping in this central location include permits, licensing, any closures or maps, and something that's unique to our state is people may not know that you must have camping reservations. So that's going to be important information to house in one primary location. I did pull this little data tidbit that 81% of American travelers report that they plan to travel within the next 6 months. And that's actually up 65% in mid-January, which is the highest level we've seen since last March. So thank you, Longwoods International, for pointing out that planning is going to be shifting into people's focus, and that information that they need to have is going to become all that much more important. The first example I want to point out here is Visit Casper had a great FAQ page, and I loved the setup of this page because it was very conversational and less formal. So to me, it felt like that was a great way to gather information and present it to people who are on Visit Casper's website. The next example I wanted to show is Jackson Hole actually has a Know Before You Go as well on their homepage, Hero, so that we can have, these planning resources up front and just help support the COVID messaging from those authorities. And last but not least, I want to talk about how we are going to continue to evolve travelwyoming.com. We want to help emphasize the businesses that are open in destination. We want to help emphasize the safe events that are going to be happening in destination. So we have put a lot of work into the website, redoing our listing grids and event grids, showing that the businesses are available, are open, events are still happening in a safe nature. So that's there's another image, if you could switch to the next image, that shows the events themselves. So we have a couple events there that you could see with a COVID clause, obviously stating, sometimes events have to be canceled due to those kinds of things. So thank you for listening about the website. I hope that helps clear up and highlight some of those COVID trends on websites and round out 2021. I'll pass it back to Lauren to talk more about Why Responsibly.
Thanks, Blake, and hello again. So as I mentioned, we are really excited to continue moving forward with our Why Responsibly campaign. It is something that we began talking about last spring, really keeping the pandemic top of mind with messaging around just potential canceled events, maintaining a safe distance between other travelers and things like that. But now we're really excited to transition this to focus more on sustainability. So our focus moving forward will just be on those natural spaces in Wyoming, wildlife, and the community, just remembering to support local businesses and just be respectful of everyone who you encounter while traveling. So we actually started running this portion of the campaign last fall, and these are just a few examples from our social media. This campaign will largely be a digital and social media campaign. And we're just really excited this type of messaging. I know it's been expressed to us that it is really needed across the state, especially in places that might experience a little bit of over-tourism, just really making sure that people are being respectful when they're out camping or driving their RVs, and especially with more and more people now taking to the outdoors than before who might not fully understand how to be a good steward of our lands. Now you can move on, Piper. So we currently do have a pretty small toolkit available on our website, and it just shares the hashtag, and there's a document that we worked with a few other agencies within the state to put together, really putting some of the most important tips at the forefront just around fire safety and things like that. We also have some badges on Instagram that can be used with Instagram stories when talking about this, but we're really excited to build out a more robust toolkit and just have a lot more features that you guys can engage with and use to put this messaging into your own messaging for the summer. And that will be coming out shortly, and we'll actually have our March webinar will be more focused on Why Responsibly and really unveiling some of the elements of that toolkit. So sign up for the March webinar if you're as excited as we are to move forward with this campaign. And I'm just going to move this right into social. So one of the social trends this year is purpose-driven messaging with an emphasis on sustainability, which is another reason why we're so excited for this campaign. So just more reason for you guys to get involved where you can. And again, more information to come on that later. Another trend that's a little bit similar for social media is inclusivity. So just really making sure that the information that you're sharing is diverse enough to make all types of people feel welcome in your area and at your business. So a few ways to go about doing this is to be inclusive with images that you share. I know that we're actively looking for images with just more diverse people that we share on our Instagram channels and just throughout a lot of our messaging, while also being sure to stay authentic to Wyoming or your specific area. I know there's been a lot of different points of conversation around diversity, especially over the last year, and it can be difficult to know when to get involved. So I guess I would just say if it feels really forced for your destination or for your business to say anything on the topic, I just wouldn't do it because it's important to not feel like you're just saying something to be part of a movement and to really make sure that if you are speaking it's giving out useful information, otherwise just leaving that space for those who do have something more relevant to say about it. So a few examples of just staying authentic to Wyoming include this example from Wind River. They have a lot of really great content on Native Americans, which makes sense for them because the reservation is in that area. And then another example is from our website, just talking about accessibility outdoors, and just how everyone can frequent the outdoors. And then with this also, just really make sure to address any negative comments with thoughtful responses. So similar to how on any Google reviews or TripAdvisor reviews or things of that nature, I'm sure that you focus a lot on addressing negative comments there. So it's really similar to social media, just instead of ignoring those negative comments, just be sure to address them and respond to them. And if you are getting certain types of comments regularly, maybe work with your staff just to see what an appropriate response would be, just to make sure that it's well thought out and consistent. And with that, I will pass it over to Lexi to talk a little bit more about social.
Thanks, Lauren. So a lot about what we'll talk about on social is just kind of supported by the website and PR trends that we're seeing. But first we wanted to talk about the different platforms on social media that we pay the most attention to, and we still are seeing what we refer to as the big three: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as still being our target platforms. Facebook especially has, our 35 to 65-year-olds, which is our target audience for the most part of family travel and those who want to come to Wyoming and see our great state. So if you can only focus on one, Facebook is still your best bet to continue with. Although Instagram is coming up there with the millennials. So while we're focused on the big three and putting content out on them, something that we've noticed we should start kind of paying attention to is TikTok. It's on the rise, and Instagram Reels. Instagram has kind of followed in the way of TikTok in doing a video platform, which videos are also performing better on Facebook and Instagram. You're getting more impressions out of videos than you would just an article or a photo. And so it's nice to pay attention to those. We're not telling anyone to get a TikTok, but just to pay attention to kind of the trends that they're setting, because those are then flowing back into Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Another great thing for 2021 is that local and micro influencers are leading the way for us. The reason that people are tending to pay more attention to them is that they're more hyper engaged on social. The mega influencers tend to not be able to reach everyone in the comments, and they don't have that personal fit or aspect to them, but the micro and the local influencers are still hyper engaged. They still have that passion, and it lends a huge credibility to your brand and to what you're kind of selling. And some great examples we've seen from Sheridan, their backyard stories are great because, as mentioned before, people want to feel like when they travel to your destination, they're traveling as a local travels. They want the hidden gems. Backwoods Distilling Company, they have their bartenders, teaching you to make their cocktails and other drinks, which has been fantastic. I know Visit Casper has also had a couple micro influencers, and we've just been really impressed with all of your guys' social. It's been doing great. And then lastly, we just wanted to hit on videos, because TikTok is coming up so fast and kind of defining what we post video wise. Short videos are definitely the future, but just going off of that, for travel specifically in these videos, because they are so short, we're seeing a lot of travel destinations develop series that kind of keep their audience hooked, that they either come out once a week or once a month with a new hike or a new hidden gem place to eat. Activities in the area are great short videos that you can give, and locations, cafes, the best restaurants, best places to stay. And going off of that, we have the short video that kind of puts them all together and shows a nice smattering of what we're talking about.
So you say you wanna get away. We don't need a plane. Could be your escape. Take it to a place where there's no time, no.
South Dakota road trip itinerary. Your first night, make sure you stay near the Badlands so you can wake up and go to Big Badlands Overlook for sunrise. It is unforgettable. Then go hike Door Trail. It will take you about 20 minutes and the views are insane. Drive the scenic loop and look for Bighorn Sheep. Then hike Notch Trail. It will take you about 90 minutes and the views are spectacular. But I'll warn you, if you have a fear of heights, this might not be a good hike for you. Go stop by the infamous Wall Drug, then spend the night at Dennis Ranch. It's a 100-year-old working cattle ranch that accepts travelers and guests. They'll really welcome you as part of the family. You can go horseback riding or bottle feed the calves. Helping out with the chores is so much fun, and you'll learn all about ranch life. Way more info about this on my blog. Then go to Mount Rushmore for these iconic views, the Crazy Horse Memorial, and Custer State Park. For your final stop, visit Deadwood. It's a historic Wild West town. You can go on some pretty spooky ghost tours and see the brothels, which were open to the 1980s. South Dakota is an amazing state to road trip. Have fun. Way more info on my blog.
Do this right. Let's do this right. Let's go to. This I feel like Friday nights. This I make you feel alive. Feel like we in paradise. Paradise. Don't know if it's a drink I pour, but I swear I've never loved you more.
Right. The great thing about those videos is, even though we might not have accounts on TikTok, you can easily share them on Facebook and Instagram and help your influencers that way. And now I'll pass it over to Charles to talk more about video and photos.
Thanks, Lexi. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to share a few trends that we're looking at for 2021 and into 2022 in the photo and video realm. So as the trend has been, our attention spans are shrinking. Microsoft does a study every year to see what the average attention span is, and we're down to 8 seconds for 2021. That's down 4 seconds from 2017, which means that we're losing a second per year. Now, does this mean that your videos need to be 8 seconds long? No. What this means is that you have about 8 seconds to catch the attention of a viewer, or your photo needs to be compelling enough to hold someone who's looking at it long enough to actually get your message across. That being said, information is flowing faster than ever before. We have faster internet speeds than ever before, faster cell service. That being said, we're having less lag time and people are expecting their information right now. That means that your message is going to be entered into people's minds faster than it ever has, but it's also going to leave their minds faster than ever before. So it's really important to keep in mind that your messaging needs to be pretty concise, especially when it comes to being in a video. When it comes to the viewing mediums, phone is officially the winner over TV anymore. Even when you have a TV on, many people are actually on their phones in front of the TV. So the TV is just kind of becoming a background noise for many people, especially in the generations like millennials and Gen Z. It's more or less just something to put noise on in the background, while the phone is actually where a lot of people are getting their entertainment from. And then finally, a big theme that's coming up, life in post-COVID. A post-COVID world is going to encourage screen time like we were when we were in lockdown. The reason for this is just human habit. We spent a lot more time as a species on our phones while we were all locked down, and people are going to start getting out and around and having more freedom. That phone is still going to be there, and people are going to be more eager to share their experiences. So that being said, it's best to try to keep your content very concise. So when it comes to like digital ads and stuff like that, just the facts. And when it comes to videos, get in there and start really quick. Lexi showed those examples from TikTok, which are great examples of that. It's just, you get right in there, and within the first couple of seconds, you have the information that catches people's attention. And then before they can even lose attention, the video is already halfway over. So it's great to keep in mind. So the traditional length for a video used to be around 3 minutes. That's much shorter nowadays. And it depends on the generation that you're in and how much phone use you have. But what we're seeing is that the Gen X to baby boomer generations are finding a 45-second to 1:15 optimal duration. And that's when they start to drop off viewership. Millennials and Gen Z, on the other hand, it's 10 seconds to 30 seconds. So you're seeing a huge difference in between those 4 generations when it comes to attention span. But apps like TikTok and Instagram Reels and still YouTube are your top platforms when it comes to watching video. And then, of course, when it comes to your viewing of photos, it's still going to be Facebook is the king, and then Instagram coming in second, followed by Twitter. So some great examples of these videos that are done well already, taken from some of your YouTube channels, actually. I liked one that I saw on Casper's channel called Take a Tour of Casper. It's a short video. It's maybe about a minute. Luke does a great job just, hitting some major destinations within that area. And he basically just keeps moving throughout the video in a way that doesn't help people lose any interest in it. Next, we have Jackson Hole Bike Park. The trail crew did a video back in June, just kind of showing some improvements they were making to trails and stuff like that. Again, it was around a minute. It wasn't a whole lot of voiceover. It was just kind of music and video, and it was very compelling just as it was. And finally, there's another one similar to that called Cross Country Skiing in Wind River. And I'm not sure if this person that was in the video was actually a visitor, but it seemed really natural and conversational, like the person in the video was just telling a story, but it wasn't too long. So great examples there for video. So I'll touch briefly on some visual asset numbers. So the Wyoming Office of Tourism has nearly 7,000 assets that are publicly available for use. That's as of this month. That includes user-generated content collected from Instagram and Twitter users via CrowdRiff, which is our asset migration service. And then just sharing that the 2020 summer campaign, we captured over 200 new rural images ranging from the Bighorn Basin to Southeast Wyoming. And that brought the That's Why campaign to about 2,500 images, which is pretty impressive considering the amount of variety that the campaign now has. And that being said, that's a good natural segue into the Wyoming Media Library. That's our asset library with assets for use in marketing, promotion, and public relations from across the state. This platform is free to access by anybody who needs to use the assets, especially when it comes to publications and partners. That's primarily who we are having this set up for. So you can always access it at assets.travelwyoming.com. And if you ever need the actual URL without knowing off the top of your head, it can be found on the industry page of the Wyoming Office of Tourism website. So within the Wyoming Media Library, which is the public-facing side of our library, everything is organized by county. We encourage everyone to organize and upload their own assets into the Wyoming Media Library, mainly because it's going to help give publications in our office the greatest reach when it comes to needing assets. If we already have it and we know we're going to have a request for it, it's going to be that much simpler to be able to use it for promotion. Same thing for publications. If they're on a deadline and we've got all of the assets that they're looking for in one spot, then they're not going to have any issues, and they'll probably have a higher chance of promoting our state. Some partners that have provided a lot of good assets to the Wyoming Media Library. As shown in these pictures here, we've got one from Casper. Sweetwater County has provided some great images of Flaming Gorge. Buffalo Chambers provided great images of their guest ranches. Gillette's got great town shots. And then of course, Visit Laramie has great photos of Jubilee Day. So that just gives you an idea of some of the assets that we're looking for the Wyoming Media Library. And really quickly, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to upload photos and videos to the Wyoming Media Library. It's 5 easy steps. The link is always going to be on the upper left corner of the Wyoming Media Library landing page. So it's as simple as just clicking that link and then clicking upload your files, which is going to be the middle image. And then we're going to basically click upload after you've drag and dropped your files. And then step 4, which is a really important step, you'll be able to add information, including what the image is of, who uploaded it, any credit information. And then finally, once you hit upload, our office will review, and then the assets will be placed where they need to be placed. And with that, I'll hand things back to Amy.
Great, thanks, Charles and Lexi, Lauren, Blake, and Piper. That was a great presentation. We do have a couple questions that have come in. And so I will go ahead and throw them out. If you guys have other questions that you want to ask, please go ahead and drop them in the question and the answer, and we'll get to them as we can. So the first question is, what's the reasoning behind WOT using only 2 hashtags on Instagram and not tagging the DMOs?
I can jump into that one. That is a great question, and that is something that we are working to tag more DMOs as we are talking specifically about your destination. So that's something that we would like to incorporate more. And if there are specific hashtags that your DMOs are using, I know we've been trying to collect as many as we can, but if there are some that you're using with each of your posts, just feel free to let us know, and we'll definitely make more of an effort to include those in there as we are posting about your locations.
Great, and Lauren, I think the next question goes back to you as well, possibly Blake. Where do we access the sustainability logos?
Yeah, so the ones that I shared in the presentation are you can currently find them on Instagram, but only through the stories. So if you're posting an Instagram story and you search for Travel Wyoming, they should appear, but we will have those logos in more, able for you guys to use in more formats besides just Instagram stories with the toolkit that's coming out in the next month or so. So we'll be sure to share those with you guys as well.
Fantastic, thank you. The next question, probably Lexi or Lauren. Are you familiar with the app Clubhouse, and do you see it as a viable platform for tourism?
I am not familiar. Lexi, are you familiar?
I know it's an iPhone app, I believe. I could be wrong. It could be multiple user. But I know from what I know about it, it's invite only and it's an audio app. But I haven't thought of it in use of tourism.
All right, do any of the other panelists have any idea? Charles, is that in your wheelhouse?
I'll just throw in, just as a general rule of thumb, no app is really off limits when it comes to tourism promotion anymore. I've heard of people promoting politics on Twitch, which is a video gaming app, and I've heard of people who are promoting tourism on places like LinkedIn, which is usually a business-to-business app. So more and more, it's possible, yes. Is it optimized? That may be the question that we're still facing that we don't know yet.
Great, thanks. The next question, any thoughts on how best to highlight outdoor dining options?
I can jump in on that front. I think going back to that COVID page, I think when we are talking about anything related as a result of the pandemic, it should just be one accessible source of information. So whether that be face coverings or outdoor dining, I think it should be housed under that COVID information. And if you have a specific landing page on your website dedicated to dining options, it should be sprinkled in there as well. And once we get closer to that summer season, I think you can also sprinkle that into your social posts and any conversations that you're having with media. Because again, I think we'll see that really be an opportunity for people wanting to be more outside, no matter whether it's dining, hiking, lodging, etc. So I think that was a really good question.
Thanks, Piper. Another question we have is, how relevant is having a TikTok channel going to be in the next couple of years? And how does that fit in with our target market?
I can answer that one. Go ahead, Lexi.
Go for it, Charles.
Okay. I was just going to throw out there that, TikTok's got an interesting history. I guess the word that I'll use it pre-January 1 of 2021 was volatile. It's not so much that anymore. A lot of people are worried about security on it and whether they're going to hit their right market or not. The thing about TikTok, as far as attention span goes, it kind of nails home the fact that we have shorter attention spans and we're receiving information faster. That's kind of the whole story behind TikTok. Really fast, really informative, really entertaining videos. So there's not a whole lot of big brands that are using TikTok right now, but that's going to pick up here in the future. And we're probably going to see in the next couple of years a lot more DMOs using TikTok. A couple that are already using TikTok are like the San Diego Zoo, and then large organizations like Booking.com. And their videos are just like everything else on TikTok. They're really quick, videos that are very informative. Some of them are just full on entertainment, just to keep their business name in your mind. But it really works. And the major demographics that are using TikTok right now are millennials and Gen Z. So we're looking at 18 to 35, essentially, when it comes to those age groups. And we're seeing a lot of road trippers that are that age. So I think it's definitely relevant and will become more relevant. Whether we're there yet, I feel like we're kind of almost to the peak where we could start seeing a lot of people developing their own channels, but maybe not quite.
Thanks, Charles. Lexi, did you have anything more you wanted to add on that, or?
No, I think he summed it up really well. It is something that's for the future and the younger generations, but it is climbing and showing how useful it can be.
Great. This question is for Piper. If we're not currently working with freelancers or bloggers or brand ambassadors and we want to, how do we go about getting connected with them?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think depending on who it is, you'll have different sources of communication. So for instance, an influencer, you can directly DM them in their social media channels. They're very willing and open to having those conversations very early on if you're looking to hire them on photography or any sort of level. In terms of like a blogger or a traditional freelancer, you may want to look for their LinkedIn profile. I've actually been seeing a lot of freelancers making their own websites and showing their portfolios of past work. So I know they're very, very open to connecting on LinkedIn, or you can, usually you can find their direct email address if they do have a website, and you can directly email them. They are more open now to having you email them and have that in that personal connection rather than bugging them on social media. So it just depends on who you're really trying to go after.
Great. And the final question, I think, is for you as well, Piper. Do you have any idea when the Salt Lake spread is going to be published and out?
Yes, I do. So that is the March and April issue. It's fortunate that we're going to be seeing it being a print edition. So there's going to be about 60,000 print editions coming out in March, and then they will be syndicating that onto their online platform in April and May. So when that is live, we'll actually have copies of that, and we'll make sure, since all of the road trip routes were there, a lot of the destinations that are on this call today were a part of that. So when I have that available That was just a screenshot that the editor sent me. So once I have the full spread, I will share that widespread.
Great, thanks, Piper. Well, that's all of our questions. So again, on behalf of the Wyoming Office of Tourism, I want to thank all of you guys for joining us today. Just a reminder, we are going to send out the presentation, the video, and then we'll have some of the links that were mentioned. That'll all go out on an email. You'll also be able to find that on our industry webpage and our Facebook Basecamp page. And just one final reminder that our next webinar is going to cover Why Responsibly, which Lauren talked on, and it will be on St. Patrick's Day, so March 17th at 1:30. So wear your green, which is very appropriate for sustainability and being cautious, and we'll see you guys all then. Thanks and have a great rest of your week.